right, Rachel, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So what I'd like to do now, we've gone over your resume and some of the work that you've done. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the work that you've been doing most recently?
Well, most recently, I was helping with financial things. I'd look over the documents that I was given, the bank statements, and any checks. I'd input them into QuickBooks. Sometimes all I had to do was make sure that they matched up, and if they didn't come in that month, I had to make sure they went in the next month. And other times they didn't even match up, so I had to make the entries myself, make journal entries, input the data, make sure the price and dates was right, and then balance the books and reconcile it to make sure that it match. And
Okay.
I'd also do the office work, any filing and shredding that needed help, and this basically helped my two co-workers that were there.
Okay. And that was a temporary position for tax season, you mentioned?
Yes, it was for tax season.
Okay, great. And before that, why don't you tell me what you were doing for work?
Before that, I was a teacher. I usually worked by myself. I didn't have an aide, so I'd have 30 students all under the age of 5 staring at me as I tried to teach them English. Of course, I had to show leadership because I couldn't let them control the classroom. And so I would organize them and I'd help all the students as much as I could, got them around the same level so that they could help each other. And I'd ask them to talk to each other, like they'd ask questions like, "How are you today?" And I say, I'm fine. And then they'd say, "How about you? How are you today?" So
Okay.
I was able to get them to respond, not just me saying, talking the whole time.
Was that something you were doing remote?
It was remote for the first few months of COVID, but after that it was mainly face to face.
Okay.
And
Here in the or here or outside of the United States?
it was in Japan.
In Japan. Okay, that's what I was seeing on your resume. So you live in Japan for the 5 years that you worked
Yes,
there?
the whole 5 years I was in Japan. I was in the small time little areas, so not the big cities. I was close enough where I could visit, but I was basically having to learn the language because no one else understood English around me.
Oh my goodness, what a wonderful opportunity that must have been. And then before that, not as exciting as being in Japan, but you were an office assistant for Lake Sumter. That's the college out in Leesburg in Lake County.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, go ahead.
I'd help with faxing and filing and whatever else they needed me to do. Sometimes I'd have to do data entry there. I made certificates that I had to input the different schools, the different children's names and their grade level, and I had to do all this within a month time frame for like 100 different schools. So that was tough trying to make sure I got there in time to make sure that they were all finished.
Sure. And you were there about 3 years. That I'm assuming is a lot of detailed information that you were entering.
Yes, it was a lot of detailed things because if I missed one little detail, it could upset the clients, it could upset whoever I was trying to help, and it would just backpedal a lot if I had to keep redoing it.
Okay. And so you have a degree, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, associate's degree in General Business. You've got accounting skills, QuickBooks, journal entry. What type of work do you enjoy most?
I enjoy helping people
Mhm.
because I could help the clients with QuickBooks who didn't know how to balance their books. I could help the students who didn't know how to speak English. I could help anyone that needed help. And occasionally in Lake Sumter, I'd even go to the testing area with people with disabilities and I'd watch them take their tests. And sometimes they come and be embarrassed because someone their own age is watching them. But I just let them do their thing and they realized I wasn't going to judge them for it.
So, the position that you had when you were teaching the students, I'm sure was very different than the bookkeeping position. So, bookkeeping position, you would work more independently, more data entry, data focused, probably a little bit more similar to the role that you held with the Lake Sumter College, as opposed to in person. So if you were to choose your next position, would you choose it to be working data focused with the data, or would you prefer to be working with people?
Uh, I don't mind either way. I mean, I like working with people and I like entering the data as long as as it helps them at the end of the day.
Okay, wonderful. And then, so tell me a little bit about the work that you were actually doing with the QuickBooks when you were doing the journal entries and such.
Well, I would get different different state bank statements, and I check and make sure that they were logged into the QuickBooks, either the online one or the downloaded one on the desktop. And then I'd reconcile it at the end if it balanced up. If it did not balance up, I had to go find where they were, and if they were nowhere to be found, I'd have to input them myself.
Okay,
And then
wonderful.
there was this one specific client, none of his things matched up. I had to literally go line by line, entering everything. And it wasn't easy because I had to change what he was doing. Because if he went to racetrack and it was under $20, I had to input it for food. But if it was over $20, I had to do it for gas. So I had to make sure I knew what he was doing at each thing he went to.
And then, how do you learn best?
I prefer like a hands-on approach. You teach me and I will soak it up. But if necessary, then that's okay. It's up to your own devices. I can do that too. I always
Okay,
use Google and figure things out.
wonderful. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and pause this part of the interview. Don't go anywhere. I have a few more things to talk about. Thank you.
Okay.